Kaos was recently released on Netflix, and this is a show that I really didn't know what to expect before putting it on for the first time. But I can quite happily say that this is one of the freshest shows to land on the platform in a long while. Focused on Greek gods and the feuds they had with one another, it explores themes of belief systems, love, betrayal, and the afterlife, all coming out in this dysfunctional family that was essentially immortal, with an ending that definitely set up a second season. Let's jump into the video and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is Kaos ending explained and review. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending explained. The ending of Kaos was focused on all of the lies being unraveled and the prophecies being fulfilled. After the fates were destroyed by Zeus, the prophecy, Aline appears, the order wanes, the family falls, and chaos reigns, was the very thing that Zeus was paranoid about. Following his discovery of a line on his forehead, he feared the chaos that was potentially going to ensue. By the end, chaos did reign, and he lost his powers and fell. However, as the fates said, a prophecy is only really true if you choose to believe it. With Zeus following it, chasing it, and acting because of what he read, that's why it ultimately happened. Let's first start by looking at Riddy. Riddy found herself being killed in the first episode of the show and awoke in a place called the underworld. This was essentially an afterlife. Following their death, if you were buried with a coin, you were then able to go through what was called the frame with the intention of being given a life that was better than the one you had before due to being loyal to the gods. However, as we saw during the ending, it was all one big lie. The frame didn't renew people. It instead sent them to the nothing, where their souls were consumed. It was fed by the fountain where Zeus drank the water from, which allowed him and the other gods to stay immortal. However, people back on Earth didn't know this and were devoting their lives to the gods due to this promise. Once this was found out, it caused Riddy to want to go back to Earth, even though she was in love with Caneus. She wanted to change the way that people live their lives. Life was for the living for one time only, and she wanted to get that message across so people would stop worshiping the gods and believing that things would be better on the other side. Additionally, there were too many souls being consumed in the nothing because Zeus was on a killing rampage, which was causing it to get overrun. This showed the hatred and greed that he had for mortal humans. With Riddy parting ways with Orpheus, even after he saved her life and went further than any mortal had ever done before, she saw Cassandra when she returned. Cassandra said that she was a prophet and that Riddy now was too, meaning that maybe she could now see the death that would strike people before it did. In terms of Caneus, we saw that he gained the ability to put the souls of the people that had them removed into nothing back into them, almost regaining life in the underworld. We saw him do this with his mother, following the day that she died. Ultimately, he ended up in the nothing following his mother's death. When his soul was revived, Hades saw what he did to his mother and was shocked, showing that Caneus had a power that had never been exhibited before. Caneus was very different from a lot of the people in the underworld. He had love and empathy ingrained within his core. I think that's probably at the heart of why he's got that ability. Regarding Ari, we saw that she discovered her brother, Gloss, being locked in the dungeon for his entire life. Upon finding him, her chain of events started to unravel. Her father had always misunderstood his prophecy, which turned out to be for his daughter to end up killing him, something that did end up happening. This led to Ari essentially becoming ruler, and in her new position of power, she was going to ally with the Trojans to try and make things right. Doing the complete opposite of her father, she planned to free the people from the gods and destroy Olympus while rebuilding Troy. This feels like something that is probably going to happen in Season 2 of the show. With regards to the main man, Zeus, his whole world pretty much started to fall apart as his prophecy came true. His brother, Prometheus, claimed the throne. Zeus lost his powers. Hera left him and was looking to have her own kind of power, and his son was about to embark on a chaotic journey of destruction. Zeus was an evil individual who only cared about the power he had, not the people who worshipped him or even his family. He was claiming everybody was taking from the fountain when, in reality, it was him who was drinking it all. Zeus didn't even believe in love. He was a selfish person. With Zeus being stripped of his powers and being the god that everybody is now against, and with the underworld most likely gaining more souls, which means that the fountain will dry up, Zeus will most likely no longer be immortal. The people on Earth might even come to their senses too, with Riddy being there. My review of the show. I thoroughly enjoyed this show. I thought it was lighthearted where it needed to be, especially when it was focused around Zeus. The way it delved into the topic of how belief systems can be something people believe in with no true definitive proof was an interesting angle for the show to explore. Even though this wasn't about a specific higher power, but more about believing in mythical gods and the promises of an afterlife, which makes people ultimately dedicate their lives to it. It felt like the show was maybe trying to provide a commentary on different belief systems. Another element that I thought was really strong was the story following Riddy and Caneus, their mirrored prophecies, the discovery of the nothing, and the fact that the belief system people were promised was non-existent while the gods were just feasting on their souls. The theme of this, centered with Riddy and Orpheus, was actually quite heartbreaking. We saw someone go to the underworld and do more than any other mortal had done before to win her back, and she didn't want to be with him. It was heartbreaking, but also heartbreakingly beautiful at the same time, as the love was only one-sided, but there was still a deep sense of care between them. Once Riddy returned to Earth, the use of Prometheus as the narrator was a great way to break the fourth wall and give hints about what was potentially on the horizon. The cheekiness he had and the explanation midway through the season was great. It worked perfectly because Prometheus was lonely and had nobody else to talk to. So from a structural point of view, it was strong. I felt like we actually got a good bond with the character, one that we didn't get with any other characters. The stylistic approach of having the underworld in black and white was something I also appreciated. I feel it was probably done because it was an environment that was supposed to be lifeless. By removing the color, that's probably the best way to get it across from a visual perspective. It also felt like that because it was an environment full of lies and deceit, a place being exploited. One thing I also thought was really positive about the show was that it was shot really nicely and looked extremely glossy. It actually felt like a comedy that had a lot of effort put into it. It even reminded me a little bit of The Gentleman or Snatch, which were made by Guy Ritchie, with the abrupt style, pausing, and introduction of characters as the narrator then elaborated. I would best describe this show as refreshing and just an enjoyable ride that doesn't take itself too seriously. At the same time, it takes pride in the fact that it tackles deeper themes and makes an effort to ensure that the story is front and center. It also felt like this show was written with a season 2 in mind, so I'm hoping that the platform will go through with it because I think it deserves another season. Outro. There you have it, a review of Kaos and the ending explained. If you want to see more videos on your favorite TV shows and movies broken down, click on the card in the top corner or alternatively, head over to my channel where you'll find them all. Do you also think that this series is one of the freshest that the platform has released in a while? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.